Hello, thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to use some different techniques to make resin jewelry for the upcoming gift giving season. I am going to be using some UV resin as well as some high gloss epoxy 1-to-1. I am going to be using some, I believe that these are called blank base bezels, blank bezel bases. Say that 3 times fast. Now I'm going to start with the water drop technique. Now I have actually used this technique using just the high gloss 1-to-1, but I've only done it in bigger pieces like trays or coasters. I don't think it'll work in the smaller pieces because you know how the resin tends to want to level itself out. So I do have a little UV light here. You can also use like the UV flashlight. So let's go ahead and start by making a few water drops. And I'm only going to do one little mold at a time because this too will start to spread. So I'm just going to put some drops in here where I think they look cool. And I personally like to kind of run some of the drops down the side, but not everybody does. So let's go ahead and get that UV going. At least enough to just to get it set so it'll stop running, and then we'll do another one. And then I'll hold the UV over it for a little bit. So I think it's about 1 minute. And what I like doing, why I like to use the UV resin is because I can come in shortly thereafter and brush it with the mica powder. Whereas if you're using the regular 1-to-1 resin, you do have to let it set for 24 hours so that it's cured before you can brush it. So it should be done any second now. I have made a few of these pieces and I think they look just really cool. Okay, let's go ahead and get another one started. And I actually think I want a little bit by the part of the mold that's going to be the hole for the jump ring. So let's go ahead and stick that over there. And then once I get all 3 of these done, because I purposely tried to make sure that I'm going to do 3 that's all close together so that I can set the light on top of all 3 of them and let them continue to cure. And then we'll start working on the blank bale base. That is a mouthful for me. And if you'll notice on these bales, this is what they look like when you buy them. And it's like I don't know, maybe a copperish dark color in there. But because I do want to use clear resin, I went ahead and just used some acrylic paint and painted the backs or the insides of the bales black. So let me set those down. We should be about ready for one more here. And you can put however many drops you want, how spaced as far apart as you want. So let me go ahead and set that down, move that out of the way. I forgot to put my gloves on. That's not cool. Always wear your PPE. So let me throw those on, because even when I first started working with resin, I thought, well, I'm just mixing it, not a big deal. Now, even when I mix it, I tend to get it on myself. So always wear your PPE. I will be actually, I don't know how well you can see. I just love this little mold. It's little cat faces and then dog paws. And we will be pouring some of that a little bit later with I'm going to use blue mica powder. So let me turn this on one more time, set this out of the way a little bit, and start preparing for, I'm just going to do these two because I just use this so I could show you how they normally come and the fact that I wanted to paint them black. And for this, I am going to mix, I hope that light is not too distracting. I'm going to mix some of the UV resin, get it in here, and make sure you keep it away from the UV light because it will cure. I don't want a whole bunch in there. And I'm going to add these little flakes. I'm not too sure what they're called because they came in a kit, and this is when I first started and bought a kit and didn't think to write down what these flakes are. So let me go ahead and scooch this over where you can see it. I'm just going to add a few of these flakes. And I have found out with these flakes, a little goes a long way. But let me just see. I want to make sure I have enough of the little. That may be enough, oops, to pour one. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to move that there so I can cure that and get that off the mat. I'm going to pour this on here. And I will probably end up doing 2 layers. I just don't want to make it too thick at first. And I want to make sure I get it in all those corners. Oh, I forgot my sticks. Something very important when you're doing these bales. I'm going to put it on a stick to level it out because this part definitely will make it unlevel. So you do want to put it on a stick or something to help level it out. So let me go ahead and mix a little bit for this one. That way we can kind of do them at the same time. Add a few flakes. Just a few. And I mean, these are purple, but once they cure, as you can see, it hasn't even cured yet, and it's starting to look all different colors in there. It's really pretty. So let's pour some of this on, and we will go ahead and cure it, and then we're going to add another layer. And I want to be careful. I don't want to knock that sideways or off the sticks. Another thing I've learned about the UV resin is once you have it ready to go, before you actually put that UV light on it, give it a quick torch so that you can remove any bubbles because it does tend to bubble. All right, I'm going to stick this over here and let it start curing. And I don't know how well you can see that. I hope you can see it well. See if I put my hand back there. Maybe you can see the little water drops. And taking my tool, can you hear that? They are cured. So let me set that aside. And do some rearranging here in a minute once I get another layer, or even after this light goes off once. But let me go ahead and start getting another little batch of this stuff mixed up. And this is to hopefully dome the tops. Whoa, that was a lot. That was a lot. This stuff does go a long way. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more resin to it. All right. Okay, so let me move this light for a second. I'm going to move these this way because I want to let this cure, but I also want you to be able to see what I'm doing with the water drops. So let's see if we can get a dome on these without overflowing. Let that start the leveling. Let me put a little on here. I want to try to make sure I get it in every little nook and cranny. All right, that looks pretty good. You set that over there. Wipe this off. Let's go ahead and start curing it. Let's see if I can get that off the mat. All right, let's go ahead and go back to our little water drops. And for this, I am going to brush on some blue mica. And this is actually called cobalt blue. It's a really pretty mica. Currently, I just use like this little paintbrush. I don't know if there's a better tool to use. I mean, if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave those in the comments below. And I am just going to brush these on. And I'm going to try and get in every little nook and cranny in there. And for me, I mean, a lot of people, or a lot of the videos I've seen, they'll take and wipe the sides so that there's no mica on the sides. I personally like the way that looks, so I'm going to leave it up on the sides. I just want to make sure I get it brushed in there real well. And once I get it brushed in there and kind of, turn it over and give it a little thump to get the extra powder out, I'll try and put it closer to the camera so that you can see. All right, one more. We're almost there. Okay, let me set this aside. I'm just going to turn it over and kind of knock the extra powder out. And I mean, that blue is just so pretty. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is I will be pouring some black epoxy resin in here. I'm going to mix, black mica mixed in resin. And I will be mixing some resin also at the same time. I'm going to use the blue for the kitty cats and the dog paws. So I need to get that resin mixed up, and I'll be back with you as soon as I do. All right, the resin is ready. And let me show you these pendants. I don't know if you can see just how pretty that color is, but the one thing, unfortunately, that I forgot to do, see if I can hold that up there for you, is I forgot to use the lighter on the top, so I have a lot of little pitting going on. What I'll do a little bit later is I will actually just put a clear coat of the UV resin on it and the lighter and then cure it. But for now, let's go ahead and mix up our black mica for our water drops. So let me grab this, and I'm going to put the mica powder in first and then pour the resin. Give it a good stir, and then we will mix up the blue. If I can get this bag open. There we go. And I don't want to put a whole bunch at first. I would rather just add too little and add more than have too much. So let me put the black in there. And I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed, and then we'll work on the blue. And I'm using the same cup I used the last time for the black. And I have a little bit of black pigment here if I need to add it. I'll wait and see. I think that's going to be dark enough. So I'm going to let that set so that any dry mica can float to the top. And I'll mix some blue. And for the blue, I actually want to just use a little cup because that's what I'm going to be using to pour these small molds, and I have a little bit more control over it. Let me add the mica first. Again, if I can get the bag open, it's hard for me to do that with these gloves on. The bag is winning. There we go. Just add a little bit of mica. It doesn't take a whole bunch. That's quite a bit. We'll see. All right. Let me get some of this poured in there. Set that aside and start stirring this. I just love the way this blue mica looks. That is just such a pretty blue. And that's something I like about this little mold with the kitty cat faces and the dog paws, is I have a lot of family members that are fur baby lovers, to include myself. And it's nice to be able to make them Christmas gifts like this using their favorite colors. I'm going to let that set so that any dry mica can float up. Let's give this black another stir. And then we will start pouring our water drops. All right, let's start with this one. And I'm going to pour a little, stops, and let it level off. Or pour a lot. All right, let's let this level off and see if I need to dome it anymore. It looks pretty domed right now, but we'll see. Now let me see if I can kind of scoot that out of the way carefully. I'm going to bring the kitty cats and the dog paws up here. Now this I have found is a bit of a challenge for me. I will try really hard not to get my hands in your way, but these molds are so tiny that they are definitely a challenge. I do not want to over pour. Start with the kitty cat face. And if I need to mix more, I can. Let's do the big dog paw. Stop there. And then what I end up doing is I tried to get it close to the doming stage without overflowing. And then I'll go back and just use my popsicle stick to put in a little bit at a time. I'm trying so hard not to have my hand in your way. Okay. And now what I'll do is I'll just take my popsicle stick and add a little at a time. Because these molds are so tiny. But they make the cutest little necklaces and earrings. Definitely a great gift idea for the pet lovers in your life. Just a little bit there because I need some in the ear. And it looks like I may have a fuzz going on. Let me fish this piece of fuzz out. I think I got it. All right. Those look pretty domed to me. Maybe add a little bit more to the little puppy paws. Just a little, like a drop. Because I do want that dome to avoid any sharp edges, but I don't want it to overflow. All right, that looks pretty good to me. Let me see what we have here. Another piece of fuzz. And you know, I do cover my work. And you can cover yours using like a box or, you know, like one of those plastic storage container thingies. I actually use, I guess it's called a food tent. So that's what I use to cover mine. And I'll cover it when I'm done so that you can kind of see the tent a little better. And I'm going to add just a tad bit more black to this one. Just a tad. So that it will dome for me. All right. As I said, I will go ahead and put another, I'm going to put a clear coat of the UV resin on here and cure it. I'll do that off camera because I know the UV light is distracting. Something else too is the little mixing cups that you use to mix your UV. You can stick them under the lamp as well, cure them, and it makes them a lot easier to clean out. Now I'm going to go ahead and move this because I told you I was going to show you my little tent. So let me do that. And then of course we need to wait 24 hours for these to cure, and then we'll be ready to make some jewelry. So there's my little tent. I actually do have to hide the string in the back because I have cats and everything's a toy. So I will see you in 24 hours after this cures, and we'll be ready to make some jewelry. All right, it's time for the unmolding. And you probably noticed that I have a couple of extra little molds on the mat. Now, as I mentioned in my video, don't waste resin, plan ahead. I went ahead and used a little bit of resin that was left from pouring these and poured 2 little skull molds. I'm excited to see what those look like and hope to have an idea for an upcoming project to use them in shortly. So let's go ahead and start with the UV pendant or pendants. Now I did go ahead and put just a clear top coat on top. I don't know how well you can see that. It is just so pretty, all the sparkles. But the top coat definitely took care of the lumps and bumps. And I think I'm going to go ahead and unmold the kitty cat faces and the dog paws. I'm going to go ahead and put a paw and a kitty cat face up here for you. And that blue is just so pretty. I just love this mold, and it makes the best earrings and necklaces. All right, let's do the water drops next. See how they turned out. All right. So I do have a few rough edges, but I'll just take an X-Acto knife to that. And I did not let the UV cure enough on this because it's sticky. So I'll have to take the UV lamp to that. But there are the water drops. I just love that technique. And I love the color, this blue. Let me move these out of the way, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I turn these into the pendants and the earrings. Let me just start with the kitty cats. Let me move these out of the way. Now, this is a glue-on bell. It's a little tiny thing. They make different sizes, but they're perfect for these little paws and cats. I just used some E6000 and a toothpick. And I just kind of stick my toothpick in there and get it full of glue. And I will put the glue on the bale and try to center it from the cat or the paw, whichever I'm working on. Then I give it a good press when I have it where I want it at. And then I do let it set and dry for about 24 hours. I don't know that you have to wait that long, but I just want to make sure they're good and secure. And now for the earring backs, just the studs. And I haven't tried to make dangles out of these yet. That'll be something I try in the future. Again, I try to center it. Like so. Whoops, it's jumping out of my hands. Like so, and make sure that I can't see. And I can. So I'm going to push it down a little bit because I don't want to be able to see that from the other side. Let me do one more. I might need just a tad more glue to do this one. Ooh, not that much of a tad. Just smear it on there real well. You know, not so thick that it's going to come oozing out when you press it on. All right. Now, because I do like these set for 24 hours before I do anything more with it, I went ahead and I have one here that's well bonded. And you can put those on the necklace cord. Now, when you do that, if you use necklace cord, in order to fit through the bell, you actually have to take off the jump ring and the clasp, string the bell in there, and then put it back on. But it looks really cute. So here's one that I've done. And it looks just really cute. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way here so that you can see it, hopefully. You can also use chain, but I chose to use the cord instead. Now, for the pendants that I use the UV on, I tried real hard to make sure I found some jump rings and lobster clasp and some chain that kind of matched it. And I went ahead and put this other one on the chain in advance because I'm still somewhat clumsy when it comes to working with this stuff. And we may be here for several hours trying to watch me do that. So that's what that looked like. And I think those are just so pretty. So that's how I make those. Oh, that one's still, I've got to put that one under the lamp. But like these little raindrop or water drops, you know, just put a bell in there and you can either use cord or a chain. But that's how I do it. And I hope that this gives you some ideas for the gift giving season. So let's go ahead and unmold the skulls just because I am curious. Because the black and the blue and the clear, I'm just curious as how they turned out in a skull. And I just really like these molds. Ooh, I don't know how well you can see that. Maybe if I set it down there under the light. But that is just really pretty. What about this other one? Let's see how it turned out. Oops. Hopefully it won't jump out of my hands. Like that. These turned out really good. Really good. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and that it sparked some creative juices in you. Leave your comments below. Also, please consider hitting the like, subscribe, and share buttons. That would really help my channel out a lot. And I do hope that you can join me for my next video. Let's have a ball. I will be attempting to make a striped ball and a spear using other spheres. So thank you again for watching. and I hope to see you next time.